So first and foremost, as you mentioned there, I am a huge Gophers fan, understandably, and I had to do a quick shout out on the hockey team being 10-0 and number one ranked in the country. We all know that's the most important thing. I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, I guess one correction of I guess the information I provided is I actually started my career while I was in school. So I'll get to that in my story. But like you said, I was born and raised in Thief River Falls. I absolutely loved it. Was extremely fortunate. I come from a extremely supportive and secure background in the sense that my parents, like you said, Tim Erickson works at North State Bank, has worked there for like 35 years. My mom works for Sailor Dentistry and has worked there for like 30 plus years. And they've lived in the same house since they got married, and they raised me and my brother and my sister in the same house. And I think when I reflect on the society we live in today, I just am extremely thankful for um, the security that I received from them and the support that I received from them. And it's really a lot of what I strive to provide for my family in the future is what I receive from them, in the sense that not only do they provide for me, but they also were always at my events. And I think that's, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I really think that's really my definition of success is the ability to not only provide for my family, but also be there for them. I genuinely cannot think of a single event growing up where I didn't have at least one of my parents, if not both, there. And that's not easy to do, as we all know, when you're working and supporting other children as well. Um, so I grew up here. I was really active in the community growing up. I'm always been passionate about being active in things I'm passionate about. So whether it's playing sports or being involved in activities, I know I was not, it doesn't matter how many sports. I played sports in school and I was in NHS and all this different stuff. Doesn't matter what I did 10 years ago, but it led me to going to University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and that's where I studied economics. And I loved it down there. I actually went to school, didn't know what I wanted to study. I did the reverse of what you're supposed to do. I chose the school before I chose what I wanted to do. I just knew I loved Gopher sports, and my sister went to the U, and I was like, yeah, I just want to go there. So then I spent about 2 years trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, studying anything from sports management to economics to pre-physical therapy. And then I went back to economics, and primarily because I've always been fascinated by why things work and why we do things and why things happen, not what, which is why I actually had a harder time learning Spanish than I did learning calculus, chemistry, or biology, just because to tell me that something is something because something it doesn't work that way. I have to know why. And yeah, my brain really gets caught up if you just tell me to accept something. So from there, about my junior year or my summer going into my senior year, I knew I wanted to have an internship because my brother-in-law and my sister both had internships going to their senior years and graduated with jobs from college. And that was my goal because I'd seen so many of my friends graduate and spend a year plus not having a job, having to move home with their parents, and not having a job and not knowing what they're going to do with their lives. So that was my big goal. Was like, all right, I'm going to have an internship going to my senior year to either springboard me into a job or at least tell me what I don't want to do. And that's where I found myself at. I ended up working with Foster Cleveland Company and an internship going into my senior year of college. So my summer, and then all the way through my senior year, I studied and worked. And that's where I really fell in love with the work that I do and started in this business back in 2014. And I didn't know that I loved it when I started. It was just something to do, like I said, with an internship. But the more and more I learned about what we do and why we do it, the more I fell in love with the work that we do. And I guess a big reason for that impacted me, and I didn't realize it until after the fact, was, I told you about the lifestyle I had growing up with the parents that I had and how fortunate I was. But what I didn't tell you was the flip side of that, where early in, I guess when I was probably early 2000s, my aunt got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and she had group benefits, and she had all the stereotypical group benefits. You get their work. She worked for U of M. But what many people don't realize is what they don't have through their group, and what they realize is with the expenses of multiple sclerosis, they couldn't afford in-home assisted care or assisted living out of the home. So my uncle had to work more. My two cousins, who were about my age, had to go to school and then go straight home and help take care of their mom. So while I was extremely I could basically do whatever I want to do. My cousins had to go home and take care of their mother while her health deteriorated over a 10-year period. And then she passed away, and about 6 months to a year later, my uncle of the same family got diagnosed with multiple myeloma. which is a terminal cancer that attacks your white blood cells. So that to me just engraved my passion for helping people understand how they can protect themselves and their loved ones, and how unfortunate it is that most people don't have a clue what they currently have in place and what it does for them in the worst case scenario. A lot of people know they have something, but they don't really know how it works and how when they actually need it, and that's the worst case scenario. And why, unfortunately, we often see benefits around the community when things do happen is because a lot of people aren't given the opportunity to protect themselves before something happens. And once something does happen, like COVID or anything like that, it's too late. So if you want to reflect it to a business planning standpoint, it's really hard to build an emergency fund when you're already out of business. So as an easy example. So that's really why I fell in love with the work that I do and continued doing it. Back in 2016, I was afforded the opportunity to move back to Thief River Falls and open my own office here, which is in the same location it's been, which is the China King building across from Styles Miami. And end of 2014, end of 2019, I decided to make a transition. So I was originally with Foster Cleveland Company, and that's where I fell in love with the work that I do. But I found myself in a bit of a rut, and going back to the flexibility point that Joe pointed out, I was just really in a position where I wanted to get more focused in my business. And I felt like I needed to really get clear on what did I want my business to look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's where I sat down with a couple of mentors of mine in the industry, and we really got clear on what is my why and what do I believe in. And I found that in addition to helping people protect themselves, that I really love our country, but I don't believe our government or Wall Street should control our financial future. So that's where that belief really aligned strongly with Solid Rock Financial Group. And that's why I transitioned over to them, is because our beliefs aligned a lot closer with what I wanted my business to look like and who I wanted to work with moving forward. And the number one thing I learned in my 5+ years of being in business is working with people who believe what you believe and really being true to yourself on what you believe. Because I found that if you try to be a chameleon and do anything for everyone, they end up being frustrated. You end up being frustrated because your beliefs don't align. But if I can really just work with people that believe what I believe, and we're both passionate about the same things, it's going to be a lot cleaner and honest relationship where we're really trying to strive for the same thing. So trying to explain that without getting into like products and like really salesy or anything like that. So hopefully that explanation makes sense. But like I said, the biggest key, the example I've tried to make up, and I'm definitely not always clear as I want to be, is, if you want to buy a sub, you don't go to Pizza Hut, you go to Subway, for example. And I found that if you're in my business, we try, or in many businesses, if we try to do everything for everyone, we end up getting spread way too thin. So just like Joe is an expert at music, it probably wouldn't be efficient for him to go try and run, Petro Pumper out of the same office and at the same time. So that's really my biggest lesson, is really trying to be true to myself and what I believe, and work with others who believe the same things. And that's where I've gotten to where I am today. So I've been in business 5.5 years, and I love living back in Thief. My wife and I, our number one value in life is family, and that's why we moved back to town, was because my wife is Brittany Erickson now, was Brittany Johnson. Her parents both live in Thief. She was born and raised here. We started dating in high school. And my parents both live here. So we really love being close to our families. And we have 4 nieces and nephews in town. We have our daughter was born in September. So we have a 4-month-old now, and that's an adjustment, but it's awesome. And I guess I don't know where else you want me to go with that, or if you want me to go anywhere else, or just stop talking. I could probably talk for a very long time, which if anyone knows me knows. So I guess I'll just leave it there and let you guys ask any questions on anything if I missed anything.
Thanks a lot, Drew. That was fantastic. So questions for Drew or comments? Anyone?
So how difficult was that transition from your company? I know it's not like a normal job per se, where you would have somebody hire you and fire you. I mean, you were choosing that company to work for, right? So how was that transition for you?
Are you talking about from Foster Cleveland to Solid Rock Financial Group? Yeah, it was there was two challenges to it. First, it was the really nice thing about being in business that I am is that without getting too into the insurance and investment world, as an independent broker, I'm not required to sell one company. So I actually didn't lose any clients. Like I didn't have to lose any clients in the transition. I could basically just carry them over and keep servicing them, and it was great because there wasn't that restriction. Whereas some companies you can only sell one thing. So if you leave the company, you can't really, keep that client necessarily. So that wasn't a struggle. The struggle was, or the challenge was when I got really true to what I believed, kind of reintroducing myself and my beliefs to all my current clients and making sure we're a good fit. And being really honest with them about, you're a great person. Let's stay friends, but maybe we shouldn't work together. Maybe there's someone else in town that you should work with because their beliefs more align with yours than mine do. And then really having those honest conversations that it was really I'll say I put a mental blocks in my mind of thinking they're going to hate me. But I found that more often than not, I think everyone appreciated the honesty because they wanted to be on the same page with their advisor as well. And it ended up in the beginning, it was a huge challenge, especially mentally. In the end, it really freed me up mentally because now even those friends that I have that I no longer work with, but we used to work together, we're on the same page and there's not that awkward step around of, they think this and I think this, but why are we doing that? So that I think that was really the biggest challenge of actually going back to the clients I already had and having to explain to them the vision of my business and letting them, or kind of us mutually determine, does it make sense for us to continue working together?
All right. Other questions?
I have one here, Drew, for retirement. Do you help people with retirement investments?
I do. Yes. So I won't get into the details by any means, but like I said, from a belief standpoint, because I think that's really the most important thing, I just truly believe that good people, good hardworking people deserve to have more control of their money, more security in retirement, and to lose less to taxes unnecessarily. And if that's your beliefs as well, then yes, I do that for my clients. If it's not your beliefs, that's okay, but I'm probably not your guy. And I think that's a really important thing because, kind of extending my answer, unfortunately, I find that a lot of people are really good at doing what they do, but aren't afforded the opportunity to understand what all their options are. So they end up doing what everyone else does. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in our society is the majority of people aren't actually happy with what their retirement plan looks like when that day comes. So maybe we should try to look at things in a little bit different light and challenge the status quo.
Sounds good.
All right. I loved hearing how the health problems that your aunt and uncle had, how that impacted you and kind of shaped you and pushed you. And I think many of us as entrepreneurs have had similar things, things that in our personal lives that have kind of just impressed us in a way that caused us to move down a certain path. So I really appreciate you sharing that because it just, I guess just hearing those personal drivers really helps us, I think, to understand each other and to connect in a deeper way. So thanks for sharing that. I really appreciated that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for your kind words.
Yeah. And I'm also hearing, the difference between staying true to your values, but still staying flexible. When I think about both Drew and Joe, there's staying true to your values, but still staying flexible, and, Drew, even, in the time that you've been in business, you changed companies. So you stayed true to your values, but you still made that change because you saw that it was something that would be better aligned with your values. So I think that's a good line to walk, staying true to values, but still flexible, looking for the best fit for each of us as businesses.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, I want to be very clear. Foster Clean was a great company. So
Yeah.
I have no slight against them. I want to be very clear on that. It was a better fit for me in my current role, or my current association, I guess we'll say.
Sure. Any final questions for Drew?
I have one. So I've met with Drew, and he's like, he puts things in layman's terms and makes it very understandable, which for me, like numbers and all that stuff, I'm like, ugh. So what's your favorite like book or podcast or something with financials that is easy to understand for, like, not numbers people?
Okay, so that's a good one. Ironically, I don't listen to that many financial podcasts because I feel like I'm thinking it all the time and like talking to my colleagues about it, that I actually try to give myself a mental break from it. So I have a lot of books that I read, and I try to read an hour every morning I try to spend an hour every morning in self-development, and that's usually books, YouTube videos, and things like that. So I can't really give you a specific example there unless you want to talk offline, and I could look through maybe some of my stuff. But off the top of my head, as far as podcasts go, because I do love podcasts, Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness, is my absolute number one recommendation. If your goal is to be a better person, that's why I listen to his podcast. It's anything from the Wim Hof method to financial stuff to, I mean, it's everything, right? He just brings on people and they talk about how to be good people essentially and be successful. And the second one would be Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He is the absolute, in my opinion, guru when it comes to being up to date on marketing. In his words, market where people are going, not where they've been. Spend your time, put your money and your attention into where people are going, not where they've been, and things like that. So I get a lot of inspiration from him on not only doing things that you're uncomfortable with. So basically, if I had to put Gary Vee in a nutshell, you can't read about push-ups and get in better shape. You actually have to do them, right? So that's always his thing about being a business owner, is you can't just want to be a business owner. You actually have to put the work in to be a business owner. And he's really inspired me in a lot of ways without ever meeting the guy. He's inspired me to do a lot of things, including my Money Not Math series, which I was kind of afraid to go online and put myself out there and create these videos of my opinions and reviews and things like that. And he'd been encouraging me without knowing it for a while. And then I told my wife about it, and she basically called me out for being a wimp and said, well, if you want to do it, then do it. And so I did. It's been about a year and a half, or about a little over a year now. I've made about 90 plus videos and podcasts. So those would be my two recommendations. If you're looking for just being a better person, inspiration, Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness. If you're looking for business inspiration, Gary V is the title. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's a business and marketing guru.